Welcome everyone to another Natural Energy Research Group meeting. Going to give a disclosure right now that this is a private group of researchers. We are experimenting with some water structuring devices. We are not here to treat, to cure, to diagnose any symptoms whatsoever. And I think that about covers it. Did I miss anything? I think we're good. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Today we're going to have a different format. We're going to do a very small well, I see that Galen's not on here, so we're going to skip the testimony part, and we're going to go straight into Q&A with Dr. Fred, and he's been traveling, so I'm so glad that he's back, and he got some time with his beautiful wife. Oh, we got Galen on right now. Okay, we're going to switch back and go to Galen first, since he's got something going on and he's going to give us his time. So welcome, Galen and Carol. Thank you
and
guys.
It's May 28th for everybody that didn't catch that.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. We have Galen and Carol. Galen, your mic is muted. And so, hi.
Okay, how are we, Lily? Good to hear you again.
Oh, it's so good to hear you. Thank you for coming on. Galen is a naturopath, and he is just full of wisdom and knowledge, and I just adore him and his wife. They have just an incredible plethora of experience and a wealth of knowledge, and he sent me a picture today. He was balancing his pills. I said, man, I should have thought of that. I'm embarrassed I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you can energize your vitamins, huh? Hello, Galen. I saw the picture also that you sent me. Thank you. It's a great idea. You can energize pretty much anything. I'm sure Galen will share some of the things that he shared with me that he energizes, including maybe his food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lily.
Yeah, go for it, Galen. Thank you for coming on and
okay. Well, my pleasure as always. Both you, Lily, and Danielle. You guys have been such brothers and sisters to me over these, especially you, Danielle, over these many years, and it's good to know you, Lily, for the short time that we have known you. It's been my pleasure. So what are we going to talk about tonight? So my latest thing has been to encourage people and to teach people how to energize and charge their other supplements that they're using, to go along with the minerals, whatever it is that they're using, to get more benefit out of it. And it's been since last August-ish, something like that. So this August, about a year ago, that I got onto these balancers. And I've been, researching, experimenting with them. And as a certified microscopist, I do have my expertise is in dry blood research. So I do some of that. And as I apply some of these principles, I will look at the microscope to see what we can notice there as well. So having said that, what we're discovering is that when we place even these little pills, vitamin pills, herbal capsules, whatever it is that you're taking orally, I will put them in a little 2-ounce shot glass. Now, when you're using a shot glass, I'm using the plastic one like you've seen in the picture, Daniel, so that you don't have a really thick base of glass so that it can easily penetrate that. So something thin, like even a plastic sandwich baggie where you can just roll the pills in the corner and lay it on top of your balancer. The main thing is just lay them on top of your balancer. We're doing that for 30 minutes, and we have very concrete evidence that on an average, we're getting between 30 and 40% increase in proficiency doing that for 30 minutes.
Oh,
Some things are up to 50%, like the ASEA Redox product, which I'm a big fan of, and it's a water-based holistic supplement. And we're getting over 50% proficiency energizing that. So that is absolutely huge. It's off the charts. It's been a great product before we ever did that. And now doing that, it's been a pure miracle. In fact, I just got off the phone from one of my contacts that has been energizing his ASEA Redox product. And he's a 70-plus-year-old gentleman, and he's had neuropathy in his hands and feet for a long time. And he's just recently reported that has made a huge difference for him in that area. So very, very excited to hear that. And then I had a little bit of fun. I guess this might be, I don't know, Daniel, if you've shared this on this call or not, but this is not very health related, but I'll share it anyways for what it's worth. We are in very high fuel prices right now. And the other day, me and my wife headed off into the mountains for about a 100-mile ride in a four-wheel drive Honda Pilot, 8-passenger Honda Pilot that typically gets 24, 25 miles per gallon. With my wife driving a bit of a heavy foot, it's more like 22 and 23. And so when I glanced over, we're almost at our destination. I glanced over at the fuel mileage, and it said 31 point something. And I'm like, okay, this is not real. But here's what we did. We had left a handful of these Waterworks energizers in the vehicle during this entire tank. So the sticks were in the vehicle, maybe 4 of them, for about a week on the same tank. So that tank was energized before we ever got to driving it. And that we have noticed, we've had similar results on other trips that we have been doing. So that's been kind of a blessing, when fuel prices are starting to top, going towards the $5 mark. So we were kind of chuckling about that on the way home from the trip. We've never seen, with my wife driving, trust me, she does not get 31 miles per gallon. So that's been a blessing.
That is just incredible. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Yeah, keep going.
Sure. Yeah, just a little bit more, more money in my pocket, And the same thing with the supplements. If I can get 30 to 40%, do the math, it just puts more money in your pocket. That's what it does at the end of the month, because you're getting way more results using less product. And God help us, we all need that these days. I add this yet, and then I'll leave it. I'll turn it back over to you, Daniel. My wife initially started charging, and she had some gut issues that she's been sensitive with her not being able to digest food real good. She's had some structural issues as well that we've been working with. But she has noticed that when she puts a couple of the balancers underneath a glass bowl of her salad that she's about to eat, if she does that for 10 or 15 minutes, and up to 30, if 30 minutes has kind of been the big threshold from what we've been testing. Most things get charged in about 30 minutes. If she does that, she's noticed that the salad breaks down a lot easier and digests easier. So that's been, I don't have testimony on as far as hot food, etc., but I do have that on salads. So anyways, over to you, Daniel. And good to hear from both of you again.
Awesome.
So Galen told us in the past about his little doggy, how animals can benefit by drinking the energized water. How's the little doggy doing? Or share with the listening audience how this can, help plants and pets maybe. You've had good experience with experiment with that, huh?
Sure, and I did share a little bit on that last call. That was a few months ago, I guess. Yeah, we had a little. Okay, let me think. We gave it to a friend of ours when we moved out to New York. So I don't have the young guy with me anymore, but it was a Bernie miniature doodle. So it was kind of an expensive dog. Somebody gave it to us because the color pattern wasn't right for selling, and etc. So anyways, we were I have a four-wheeler, and I used to ride out to the end of about a quarter-mile driveway to get the mail and stuff. And anytime we jump on the four-wheeler, the little Bernie Doodle loves to run alongside to get his exercise, and he's not high off the ground. So for him to clock about 18 miles an hour, that's kind of maximizing his speed. And when we started giving him the energized water, we did not add the minerals, but we later did add the minerals, and it got even better. But we noticed that his speed was just off the charts, and his energy was just to watch him. We had him trained for playing fetch, and we had a professional ball thing, that you can put in a stick that's made for throwing a ball to a dog, etc. And you could throw that ball out across the ground at a very rapid pace. That little guy his feet are almost, he's so low to the ground. His belly is just a few inches off the ground. And that guy could scoot across the ground. It was absolutely humorous to watch because his speed went from like 18 miles an hour up to 23 and 24 miles an hour after we had him on the energy, the minerals
Wow.
and the water. So that was fun stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love hearing that story.
That's so
and
cool.
just go ahead. Just to watch him, like his energy just was so much higher. You could just go outside, and I mean, he was just a bouncing ball himself. Then we did also water plants with it, and we very much, in fact, to this day, we don't have any plants in our garden or anywhere on the property. And my wife is a lover of flowers and all kind of plants, and so they don't get anything but this energized water, along with a few drops of the minerals. And boy, that just like I should actually shoot a picture, send it to you guys. I have a plant in here that we've had for maybe 5 years or so, and it never bloomed. Today, in the past, since we've had the minerals and energy, that flower never stops blooming. It just always has 4 or 5 blossoms on it. And like you could never get to do that inside the house. So that's been a testimony as well.
Wow. That is a miracle. I love that.
Yeah, I should send you a picture of that because it's been a blessing.
And Galen, your brother's a professional auctioneer, and he was having some trouble, I think, with his vascular system or something. How's he doing?
Yes, my brother is a faithful user and believer in the balancer and the minerals. He is a professional auctioneer. He still has YouTube videos of him out on YouTube. His name is Willis Yoder. You can actually Google that, Willis Yoder Auctioneer, and you can actually visually see my brother on YouTube. He competed in he was actually Michigan State Championship in 96 and 97, and then competed internationally all across the world in later years. So anyways, he has been a faithful believer in the minerals and the balancers because he's used them to assist him in his auctions, noticing everything from energy and voice clarity and just cognitive improvements and so forth. So that's been a blessing for him. In fact, I've been moving quite a number of these balancers to the Amish people. I've recently gotten some testimonies in from chronic headache relief. And in fact, I had one Amish guy that I just lent the balancer to because he reported headache problems. And he got up one morning and he had the balancer and he put one of them in his shirt pocket over his heart, which is what we've been doing. And we've had phenomenal results with headache issues, putting it right over the heart. Remember, you've got an artery going right up into the brain, a main artery there, going through the heart. So that's a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
And then he did that, and then he had a second balancer. He was one of the more conservative Amish. He wore one of those big, broad hats, and so he put this little balancer underneath his hat, and he went to work. And he said that by the time he got to work, he said his headache was gone, and he said it never came back, and he said it was just was phenomenal. So the Amish are begging me to put together more literature, and I'm working on that as we speak, Daniel. I've got that project already well underway. I'm just needing to finish it up. And so
Wow.
to do that. But my brother Willis, the one that you'll see on YouTube as an auctioneer, professional auctioneer, he
Nice.
has been giving a lot of the balancers to people with chronic headaches, and that is something that we've had relief for almost straight across the board. And then if you want this little tidbit, my wife, she's had a history of some gallbladder issues that we're getting on top of, but whenever she eats, enough of the wrong kind of food, she could have a flare up. And we have noticed that any type of flare up, that is causing her a lot of pain. The gallbladder can do that. It can cause you a lot of pain very quickly. And in fact, you can get into an emergency room situation very quickly if you don't have the right stuff at your house. And so she has been able to alleviate the gallbladder attack thing with maybe 2 or 3 of the waterworks, sometimes 4. It's a really bad one, but 100% of the time, no matter how bad the gallbladder attack flare up, she would be able to put 4 of those sticks on there and alleviate the pain, and then apply some of our whatever we do for that and alleviate the situation. So that's been
That
today.
is
She's actually, go ahead, Lily. Yep.
I was just going to say that's big, but I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know the pain of that. So that's amazing. But please continue.
Yes, it is. And today she's on a trip. We used to pack up a $6,000 beamer machine whenever she would go on a trip, just in case she would have an attack. She would have that $6,000 beamer machine, and she would put that on level 10, put the spot treater on it, and that would do the same thing as what those sticks. Today she has a few $100s worth of those sticks on her, and it does the exact same thing, and it does not require the space that big beamer does. She can put these in her purse, and there it is. If she has an emergency, it's right there. So that's been a huge blessing.
I love it.
I also recently got stung by a spider. Somehow that managed to weasel his way into my house. I don't know how. Up here in upstate New York, I saw him coming down the wall, and anyways, he got to me and he bit me on the bottom side of my foot, and it was not majorly painful, but it was there, and I quickly put the balancer on that spot, and that I have now done that twice. One time in Michigan when working in the garden barefoot, and I got stung with a spider, and that has been a huge blessing. It will alleviate as it neutralizes and restructures the venom, the poison in an insect bite. So always, yeah, it's been a huge thing for a first aid kit. You can put that underneath there on your bite and neutralize the venom. My brother Willis, the same one that you'll see as an auctioneer, he had a tick bite on his foot, and he said it somehow it festered and got kind of infected, and he said it wasn't healing up at all. He had applied something, it was not healing up, and I told him to put the balance in and wear it at night, just right over spot the tick bite. He said within 12 hours, it was at least 50% better, and then that alleviated that situation. So those are a few tidbits that I have for tonight. Back to you, Mr. Reed.
Well, I just think that's miraculous.
Galen, I had something to ask Galen. Galen, with the new AI centers, it requires a lot of water and pure water, and they're pulling it out of the ground. Even the Rio Grande dried up, I had heard. Do you think after they use the aquifer water, to cool these new AI centers, do you think we could maybe purify the water to drink it with some big, some big giant tubes, or use this technology maybe to utilize that water? I don't know much about it. I just heard that it dried up the Rio Grande using it. to cool for these AI. They're opening these big AI centers up all over the world. And any thoughts on that?
Well, that's kind of a big topic as far as the AI centers. I don't like this. I don't like everything I know about those AI centers as far as opening that up. But I do believe, Daniel, that as time goes on, we will be finding more and more things that this will do. In fact, I do have, I guess it's kind of off your topic a little bit, but I do have a few of these sticks in the Amazon rainforest up in the northern hemisphere of Bolivia, and using them to energize the gasoline that they're putting in the little motorbikes. And so back to your question, I don't know, Daniel. I think we're going to have to continue experimenting and researching as we go forward what all it will do. But I do know that for the missionaries up in that neck of the woods that we're working with, they're purifying water with that. And some of the people, that's the only thing they have. So they'll take a 5-gallon bucket of water and put those one or two sticks in it, and that's how they purify the water to drink it. So sure, I think there's a lot of things that we're going to yet discover, but time will be needed for some of those things.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your insight and perspective and testimonies. We really appreciate you. And yeah, thank you again.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Galen. Thank you for
are
coming
welcome.
on and telling us. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, brother Daniel and Lily. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you guys
Anytime.
more than you know. I will be running along, and we'll certainly stay in touch. Be blessed, you guys.
Okay, we'll
You
drop
too.
in anytime. And really, back to you. Thank you.
Galen, I have a clarifying question, though, on something you said earlier. You still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You said about the auto, you had the waterworks in the car. Whereabouts were they in relation to, say, the tank or any particular part of the car?
That's interesting. So I haven't done like the experimenting on the automobile thing has not been my main focus with these waterworks, but I have noticed two things that we've done with them that we have noticed that it definitely makes between 5, 10, and 15% depending of difference depending on circumstances. So one thing, this particular trip, there were 4 sticks laying in the center. This car is a 3-seater, so it has a mid row and a back row. So these sticks were laying in the mid row in the center of the seat for probably 4, 5, and 6 days of the same tank of gasoline. And they were not spread out. They were just still in their box, just as they came. And so our experience has been that if you have enough of these sticks in the car, like 4, 5, 6 of them, I believe it's probably energizing the entire vehicle, and it's going to reach a gas tank by and by. The other thing that we did do is we have clipped 4 of these sticks on the gas hose as we were pumping them in, especially with the new sticks that have these spacers attached. It makes it really nice. You can just clamp onto a regular gas hose. And doing that with a little Ford vehicle that we've done that regular with, and we've noticed that it easily gets 10%, if not 15% increased on that. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for doing the research on that, Galen. That's so helpful.
Sure.
I'm sure a lot of us are going to benefit from that as well. And thank you again. We know you have to run, but thank you for staying extra and answering that question.
Yes.
Hey,
thank you, Brother
God bless
Galen.
you guys. Thanks for
God bless
thanks
you.
for you
Love
guys.
you.
Be blessed.
God bless. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. he went from getting 25, 22 to 25 miles per gallon when he drives, 22 when his wife drives. And after applying the tubes to the hose and keeping the tubes in the center of the vehicle, he noticed an increase in the miles per gallon, which was what,
31, Lily?
I think so. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
significant. Yeah, very significant.
That's so cool. Well, this week we're going to go straight into Q&A session, and we've got Dr. Fred. He's the inventor of these beautiful water structuring devices that are helping us get better gas mileage. What do you think about his testimony, Dr. Fred?
Well, it's amazing, and we're continually amazed at the different things that we're finding out. As we've said before, we're really focused more on what this won't do as opposed to what will it do. That's interesting. I didn't know Galen was going to talk about fuel mileage, but there's a mutual friend of Doc and mine in Missouri, a cattle rancher, and he's actually the guy that introduced me to Galen. Well, let me just reinforce what Galen said so you won't think this was just a fluke and it only works on a Honda and it only works in upstate New York. The first experience we had was when our friend Greg, the cattle rancher, called and he said, I'm trying to help a boy that has cancer. And he said, because of the holiday, the products are not going to get here until sometime midweek. If I fly down there, would you meet me at the airport with some products? And I said, sure. So his son runs an airport and he has 5 or 6 little planes and he actually teaches flying lessons. And so they flew down in a little 4-passenger single engine plane. And we spent several hours together. We were walking out to the plane, walking out on the runway. And Greg looks over at me and he said, would these tubes work on reducing the fuel consumption on this airplane? And I thought that was a strange question. I hadn't expected it. And I said, I really don't know. And he said, well, can we try it out? And I said, yes, that'd be great. He said, where do we put them? And so long story short, there's a tank in the floorboard where the 2 tanks, one in each wing, a fuel line comes into this small tank in the floor before it goes out to the engine. And he opened up a compartment in the floor and I could see this little tank in there. And he said, what do we do? And I said, just shove it down in there. And at that time, we had the tubes in a vacuum sealed bag. And he started to open the bag. And I said, no, just throw it in there. Excuse me. It was a very scientific experiment, trust me. Here, just shove them in there. Anyway, he called me back after they returned home and got a chance to fill up the tank again, or tanks. And he said it would normally get on the trip to the Nashville area. He said it typically would get 12 and a half. It would use 12 and a half gallons per hour. And they were surprised on the way home. They actually reduced that by 5 gallons per hour down to 7.5 gallons per hour. It was pretty amazing. And so then Greg put it on his wife's van. She drives to another town for her job. And he was asking, would it help this van? And I said, well, I would think so if it helped the airplane. And so the first few days that they were on the fuel line, he didn't notice much increase. And I said, where did you put the tubes? And he said, I just put 2 tubes on the fuel line coming out of the gas tank. And this is a Dodge van. And I said, well, I told you to put them on the tank. So he put the tubes on the tank. And he said, after a few more days, he said, it's probably 2 or 3 miles to the gallon, possibly, but I can't really be sure. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought maybe there's something with the computerized electronics that are up in the engine compartment. The gasoline is getting energized and restructured in the fuel tank, but by the time it gets up to the engine, all of this EMF or electronic interference is possibly changing the fuel back. So it wasn't very impressive. And I called him back and I said, I just had an idea. I said, take these 4 tubes and attach one near both of the headlights and one near both of the taillights. Make an energy vortex in that van with the tubes on the corners of it. And after about 4 days, he called me back and he said it went from 24.5 miles per gallon to 29.5 miles per gallon. So it was a clear 5 mile per gallon difference. And so my wife just said she was overhearing Galen's testimony, and she said, we ought to have those on our car. And I said, I do. but I don't check the mileage because I don't go very far. What? Yeah, so we know that they're doing something because we have made this same trip that we took to Atlantic Beach. We have had to get gas more often, if that makes sense. Now, that's not a very scientific testimonial, but at the end of the day, as I said, I don't really travel that much. I buzz around town, and then we go on a trip maybe once or twice a year. I just don't drive enough to keep records of it. But I would encourage anyone who would like to find out, there are several different ways you can do it. As Galen said, and I had heard this before, one time he had 5 of the balancers in a vacuum sealed bag, and he was sitting on it. As he was driving his big pickup truck on several trips, he would go through a big city, and he's affected by the Wi-Fi and 5G and all the cell towers. Whenever you go into a heavily populated area, there are more people, and there are more people with Wi-Fi, and there are more cell phones, and so there's more of this electromagnetic frequency being emitted. It's just massive when you go into a big city, and it would affect him. And so when he had these extra balancers, he didn't have any trouble at all. And then on one of his trips, when he stopped to get fuel, it was diesel fuel, he said that he put this pack with the 5 balancers in it. He just wrapped it around the hose right below the nozzle as he was filling his truck with diesel fuel. And he said he went from 15 to 20 miles per gallon. Well, that was pretty impressive. Again, there needs to be a lot more research done on this aspect of it. But another thing that he mentioned I wanted to comment on was testing the supplements and putting them in a area where they were treated with the balancers or the water tubes. Okay. We had this done by one of our testers who does energetic testing, is what I call it. And I said, I want you to set up a box. And in this case, it was a tub like you would put things to store in your garage. It was big enough to, plastic tub. It was big enough to hold a case of bottled water, if that gives you a visual. And so, and by the way, on this trip, my wife and I carried a tub just like what I was describing. And we had 2 bags in there, let's say the size of a large shopping bag, a grocery bag that would sit side by side in this tub. And I've got a tube in each one of the corners. I just took some packing tape and taped them into the corner standing upright. So everything that we have traveled with and put into that tub, we know is getting energized. Okay. So we had this test done where supplements were tested for their energy level, put into this tub and left there for 7 minutes and then taken back out. And it was interesting because for those of you who aren't familiar with the BOVA scale, it's a scale that goes from 0 to 100,000. As far as we know, nobody has hit 100,000. And the man Bovis who came up with this scale, he said, if you test anything and it's over 100,000, you must be dealing with spiritual energy. A strange comment at the time. And then we had supplements tested, and they would run 8 to 12,000. And these are expensive, high-quality supplements. So on average, if you buy good supplements, they'll test about 8 to 12,000 consistently. And then you put them in a tub. Now, I have to clarify, at the time, we were at 8.8 million. So 4 tubes putting out 8.8 million in the corners of this tub. And you put these supplements in there testing at 8 to 12,000, and they come out testing between 2 and 4 million. But it was interesting. The woman who was doing the testing said, I had some supplements that tested at 400,000. And I said, well, that's not possible. We both know that nothing that man has tested or created has hit the mark of 100,000 even. So how could you have something that was 400,000? She said, I don't know. And I knew she lived in a house that was one level on a slab. And I said, where are the tubes on your water pipe? Where's the plumbing? She said, Fred, that's in another part of the house. I'd have to walk down the hallway from my kitchen and go into this bedroom, and there's a closet in there, and that's where the plumbing is, the water heater, and so on. She said, the tubes are in there. And I said, well, where is this closet in relation to the pantry, which is where these supplements came from, testing at 400,000. The ones testing at 8 to 12,000 were in her kitchen cabinet. And all of a sudden it occurred to her, the closet was on the other side of the wall from the location of the pantry. The tubes around the water pipe, and this is something that I haven't really talked about, but it's one of those hidden gems, if you will. The tubes on the water pipe in the closet on the other side of the wall of the pantry had energized those supplements. But even beyond that, where do the water pipes go? Think about it. If you have a house, an apartment, doesn't matter what kind of building you live in, you have water outlets. You have a kitchen, most people do, and a bathroom at the very least. But then you have other maybe outside extensions of where you can access water. But think about it. Once you put the tubes on the water pipe, it's energizing that water. As soon as you turn on the faucet, the water comes rushing through the pipe in the area where this energy vortex is created by the water tubes. That's very understandable. That water is going to have a high energy. But think about this. What's happening to that energy when you don't have the faucet on? These water tubes don't know if you have the water running or not. They're just sitting on the outside of the pipe. So the water pipe itself becomes filled with water that's energized and structured, and it's radiating that energy out into the rest of the house. In the case of our home where we live, the water pipes are going through the walls and through the floor. We have a central closet based on the way this home was designed, where the water heater is and the furnace and so on. But then there's water that goes one direction to the left toward the kitchen, and then there are pipes that go to the right to the master bath in the master bedroom, and then to the spare bath across from the guest bedroom. There's highly energized water going through those tubes and sitting in those tubes 24/7. Again, these tubes don't know where they are. They're just tubes, highly filled with the highly energized substance, and they're energizing and structuring whatever is near them. It doesn't matter if it's gasoline in your car, if it's vitamins in your pantry, it doesn't matter. And then we want to talk about food. It's interesting. I've said this many times. I don't know if I've ever said it on this call, but think about the microwave. There are a lot of people who believe it's okay to heat things up in the microwave. And without getting into a discussion on that could take another hour. But I believe that it's harmful, that the microwave changes the molecular structure of the food or liquid, whatever you've put in there. We know that it's affecting the molecules because that's the very method of how it heats something up. It's vibrating the molecules so intensely that they create heat. So it's actually heating, most people already know this, it can heat food on the inside out, liquids on the inside out, because it's vibrating molecules creating heat. Well, you think that that's all that's happening? The molecules vibrate a little bit and then they stop? No. It's actually changing the molecular structure of those molecules. So without getting too deep into the woods, let me just say this. How many people do you know drink a cup of coffee in the morning? Well, that's not even the biggest question. The biggest question is, how many people do you know drink a half a cup of microwave coffee in the morning? Isn't that what we do? We start out with a cup of coffee. We're trying to get ready to go to our job or to our office, whatever. And we sip on that cup of coffee as we're trying to get ready. And the next thing you know, we're down half of a cup and it's gotten cold. What's the fastest thing you can do to heat it up? Put it in the microwave. Well, if you are changing the molecular structure of that coffee, even if you had the best organic coffee from Juan Valdez himself in Peru, it wouldn't matter. You just ruined it by heating it up in the microwave. And so by taking the coffee and just setting it next to one of these little bouncers, in just a matter of seconds, you'll have changed the energy and therefore changed the molecular structure of that coffee. So now it's not harmful anymore. Same thing with food. The tubes, the bouncer, they don't know what you're putting them near. They're emitting this energy and it affects the molecular structure of whatever's near it. It doesn't matter. So that's something that is really a huge benefit for people to know, that they can safely heat up a cup of coffee in the morning in the microwave. Okay, so I'm going to put it back to you, Lily, and see if we have any other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you've been traveling and you only wanted to be on for an hour, so we're going to respect that, and we just appreciate you coming on. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay, let's go.
Hi, it's Doug. And
Hey,
Doctor, kind of a new target, of a marketing target I'm looking at, and it's a compound question. These are larger estates in Santa Barbara, and most of them, I believe, not all of them have water from the city. So if I wanted to test the water of its condition before demonstrating the waterworks, so I could have an example of after the waterworks have been on the system to validate the improvement of the conditioning of the water, the structuring of the water, what would be a good source point to have water tested?
I'm sorry I couldn't get my microphone to unmute for some reason. It didn't sense my fingertip. Well,
Okay.
this is an interesting question because I would assume you're dealing with large homes.
Yes. With
Okay.
property, with livestock, yeah, large homes, large acreage, most
Yeah.
of them.
Yes. So on a previous call, I talked about the very first test we did on a building of any kind outside of our own home was the office building where we have our office. And it's 160,000 square foot building. In the beginning, when I told my landlord I'd known for many years and we've become friends over time, I came to him and I said, I've got these tubes and they energize and restructure water. It would have been the farthest thing from his mind to even enter a discussion with something like that. Not that he's ignorant, it's just that he's not familiar with energy and water and so on. And so he said something strange to me. He said, come with me, and he took me to an office. It just happened to be an office that I had rented from him once before, and then we moved out of there, and it had been vacant for 4 years. Now, this office was about 1,500 square feet, it had only one source of water, and that was the bathroom. It had a sink and a toilet. And he took me into that office, and he lifted up the toilet lid, and he said, I have to scrub this toilet with a brush once a month. And then he took the lid off the back of the toilet tank, and it was just nasty looking. He said, I have to drain this tank once a month. He said, would your tubes fix that? And I said, I don't know. And so he said, well, let's put them on. So he showed me this closet where all the plumbing came in, and it was marked, this one pipe going up through the ceiling was going over to that office. So we put the tubes on there. A month later, I went back and he said, come with me. And he took me back into that office again and raised up the toilet lid. It was crystal clear, clean as a whistle. He lifted off the back tank, and other than some rust stains in the porcelain, it was clean. He couldn't believe it. So then he said, can we put these tubes on the whole, treat the water for the whole building? Well, I didn't even know how to do the math on that. And I said, I believe so. And so he showed me where the incoming pipe was, but it was 2 inches. These 4 tubes are meant to treat up to a 1-inch water pipe. If you have a 2-inch pipe, as you can imagine, you have twice as much water coming through, and it's coming through very quickly. So you have to have a lot of energy to treat it that quickly. So we put another set of tubes on. He had two sets of 4 tubes, so 8 tubes altogether. And just before we took our trip, about a week or so before, so this was just within this past month, he came to me and he said, some of the tenants in other parts of the building are saying to him, something is different about the water. Our employees don't bring bottled water to work anymore. They just get water out of the tap, out of the faucet. They're drinking tap water, and they love it. So we have this experience with treating a large building, but in some cases, if the building has more than one main pipe coming into it, you would have to treat each one of those sources. I hope that makes sense. As far as doing a test, it's kind of like what we have experienced to date is that people immediately notice that the taste and smell of chlorine is gone. Now, I don't know, in some municipalities, they have higher levels of chlorine than others. Doc Reed knows of a place in his part of the woods in Louisiana where it was found that they have chlorine resistant bacteria, and they've actually put in 129 times higher levels of disinfectant, they called it, than what the EPA recommends. Think of that, 129 times higher level, and yet the E. coli bacteria still survive. So it always depends on that source of water, how quickly and how magnificently people are going to know the difference. But it's certain that they're going to notice a difference. I hope that helps to clarify that, Doug.
And then the second part of that same question is most of these families either have reverse osmosis or some kind of filtration. So would I want to put that, could I still put that behind the system that they're using?
I believe so. Now, to clarify, a lot of people will have, let's say, a water softener. If they are outside of the municipal water supply and have a well, it just depends on what their source of water is. But in the case of, let me give you an example, a guy with a water softener, and he said, I've got a wife and kids. He said, we had to have this water softener installed because our water is so bad. And he said, I believe you, but I'm not willing to unplug the water softener. And I said, that's okay, put them on ahead of the water softener. And 3 months later, he called back and he said, I can tell you these things work because I opened up the brine tank where they dump their bags of salt. And he said it was only about half gone. He said it cut down the salt consumption by 40 to 50%. So at that point, he unplugged the water softener and nobody knew the difference. I'm saying that to say there are a lot of different things that people qualify the quality of their water. If it's city water, that's the first thing that people tell me is we don't taste or smell chlorine anymore. So as far as putting it on before or after the system, I would just ask, is it a reverse osmosis system? I'm assuming these are large, expensive homes. Have they tried to put all of the water through reverse osmosis? Meaning, is it the kitchen sink and the toilet, or is it just drinking water? At the end of the day, the only experience we have so far is with people putting it on their incoming water supply, and that energized structured water is then going through the reverse osmosis system at the kitchen sink. That's the only experience we have so far. So I would say if you put it on the incoming water supply, you'd be good to go.
Okay. And then one thing I wanted to add about the fuel, my son had detected that people across the country were noticing that they were getting less mileage from their fuel. And what they detected is that the fuel is getting watered down with ethanol and possibly other elements. That all of them, many people have reported that their mileage has been greatly reduced because of what they're witnessing on that. And I had done 10 or so years ago, I was involved with a hydrogen production machine for diesel trucks and a lot of different things. And what we noticed is you were mentioning about the ECUs, the computers on cars. And what the computer will do is when it was detecting that the fuel mixture was lean because of the hydrogen, it would auto-correct for that condition. And that may be one reason why people aren't noticing so much of an improvement with the cars that have the computers in them.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Dr. Fred,
Yes.
just real quick, I had a patient today that, got a balancer and some water additives, and they have reverse osmosis, and was wondering if, is that okay to drink, or can you, I don't even really know
Yes.
exactly what that is, but the
Yes.
answer would be yes.
Answer is yes. So reverse osmosis is pretty simple, really. The best way to describe it is if you can remember back before they had mylar balloons, these silvery, almost aluminum foil type balloons that they would fill with helium. The reason they went to mylar is because it could hold the helium for a longer period of time. Now, what do I mean by that? Remember the old-fashioned rubber balloons? You fill them up with helium, and the next day the balloon's sitting on the floor. It may take a day or two, but you get the idea. They didn't hold the helium. Well, how could that be? You can put water in a balloon, it holds the water. You can put the helium in there, and the helium doesn't just immediately escape. But because it's under pressure, you've stretched out that rubber membrane of the balloon, and that pressure is pushing inwardly on the helium. Okay. So overnight, in many cases, that pressure is enough to force the helium, even though it's a gas and it's been held in confinement by this rubber balloon. Over time and under pressure, that helium can get through pores in that rubber balloon. Well, reverse osmosis is very, very similar. It's a membrane, and it has tiny, tiny holes in it. The holes supposedly are only big enough for water to fit through. So if you had water, let's say you had a well, and you had a what would otherwise be called hard water, meaning it had a lot of calcium and magnesium in it, then the reverse osmosis membrane is not going to allow those particles to come through. So when you test the total dissolved solids of water that's come through a reverse osmosis system, it's zero because it has taken all the minerals out. Now you have just water. Now, we've talked before about how you haven't done anything about the frequency. So because of the homeopathic effect of water, the energy of those contaminants that are no longer there, the energy is still there. The frequency is still there. But to get back to the point, the idea is that reverse osmosis is forcing water through a membrane, and that's why a lot of water is wasted, because it's the water that's containing the minerals and other chemicals that's not going through the membrane, and it has to be washed down the drain. So while they seem to be very practical, they're not very efficient. But the reverse osmosis is nothing more than a glorified filter system. It's very close in results to distillation, but it's still just a glorified filter system. In fact, I've never seen a reverse osmosis system that didn't also have at least 2 or more added filters to do what they call polishing the water. So without getting into the weeds, I'll just say it's reverse osmosis is just a filter system. And the tubes on the water line are going to make for better water, even if it's been through a reverse osmosis.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Fred, I know that it's at the 6 o'clock hour
That's
for me.
okay. That's
And
okay. I can go a little bit longer. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. These questions are from Miss Linda. She wasn't able to attend tonight, but she asked me to ask them for her.
Okay.
And so basically, she loves to go barefoot to ground while she's gardening, and she just keeps her shoes off so she can ground and is outside as often as possible in the sunshine. And she was wondering, does it affect the natural grounding energy when she holds the balancer in her pocket? When she's outside grounding, should she not hold the balancer, or does it magnify the energy from the earth? And she also was curious about the beach and other situations.
Yes, I would have to say it would actually increase it. It's not going to be diminished by the energy of the earth.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Wow, that's a great, she's going to be happy about that. I am too. Okay, so yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Fred? While we have him, here's your opportunity. Well, before Dr. Fred leaves, I just want to acknowledge that and congratulate you all for being here. You are just a fraction of 1% of the population on the face of this beautiful earth that has the privilege and honor to have knowledge and access to this wonderful energy that structures the water, and the water almost in anything, in I dare I say our bodies. So while we have him on here, the inventor, who's a very studious person, if you have a question, there's no dumb questions, only the questions that are not spoken and asked. So going once on the last questions, we might close it out early. Going twice. No one has any more questions.
Here, I got one for him.
Okay.
I get lots of patients. I get lots of patients that ask questions, about the balancer and different things, and so with it, when they carry this portable water suction device in their pocket, as an added benefit, as the blood flows, near it, it's, the blood is 90% water, and it's, structuring, structuring the blood. What does that look like as far as just that in the pocket, how it's affecting all the water in the body? I mean, the eyes are 94%, the blood's 90, the organs are 70, the brain is 75. In your opinion, in your humble opinion, with that in the pocket, we can't make a claim, but from a scientific point of view, with that in the pocket, it's energizing the body. It's, what do you think all that's going on that we've heard from some of these testimonies about the things that it does just by being in the pocket? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so we've talked about this in private many times, and it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier. The tubes or the bead balancer little packet, it doesn't know where it is. You can demonstrate when you first receive it. If you were to order one, every one of these is shipped with 2 packets of real lemon juice powder with instructions on how you can do a lemon juice pucker test and see that this thing is structuring the water. It's not affecting the lemon juice, by the way. It's affecting the water, but that has an effect on the taste of the lemon juice. Without getting into all the details, it's just another indication that these packages, whether it's a tube or a little plastic pouch, they are going to structure and energize whatever's near them. and they don't know where they are. They don't know if they're on a pipe. They don't know if they're sitting next to a glass of lemonade, or if it's in your pocket. It doesn't know where it is. It just continually does the same thing. It emits this energy, and the energy structures whatever is near it. There's a reason why you have to move the two glasses that when you're doing the lemon juice pucker test, you have to move them 2 feet apart. If you had them sitting next to each other, that little balancer would structure both glasses, so you wouldn't even be able to see a difference. They'd both taste the same. So you have to move it at least 2 feet apart, indicating that there's a radius of energy coming out of it. So if you have it in your pocket, what's inside on the other side of your pocket? It's your leg or your chest if you have it in a shirt pocket, or wherever you have it. On the other side is your leg. What's in your leg? Of course, you have muscles and bones, but you also have blood vessels. And there are, won't get into the details tonight, but there are thousands of miles. I said miles, not inches or feet. Thousands of miles of blood vessels networking through your body, because every one of your cells only gets what it needs in terms of nutrients, oxygen, water, everything that each one of your trillions of cells receive, it receives directly from the blood. So that means that these tubes we call veins and arteries and capillaries, they're no different than plumbing in a house. It's mostly water. The blood is 80 to 90% just water. The red stuff only accounts for about 10% of your blood. The rest of it's just water. So what would happen if we just did the same thing we're doing to the water going through your plumbing? What if we did the same thing to the blood going through your internal plumbing? I guarantee you within a matter of, really, I think it's only a matter of minutes, all the blood from your whole body. Remember, your blood is contained in the veins, arteries, and capillaries. It's a closed loop system. So this blood just keeps recirculating. It's picking up fresh oxygen from the lungs. It's picking up fresh water whenever you drink some water. And it's picking up fresh nutrients every time you eat some food. But it's the same closed loop system. It's picking things up that the cells need, the raw materials, and it's delivering them to the cells. Again, these devices don't know where they are. They're going to do the same thing to your blood that it's doing to a glass of lemonade or your chlorinated city water. It's going to be doing the same thing. So what does that look like? Well, you have really shown us through your patients at your clinic, Doc. You have pointed out some things that we frankly did not know that these tubes or balancers would do. There were testimonials that you called me and told me about that surprised me, but it opened my eyes to the fact that there really aren't any limitations. Now you've heard tonight Galen talking about fuel, and this isn't just a one-time shot. He's been testing this on fuel for, gosh, I would say probably a year or more. And so again, we just come back to the same thing. These tubes and balancers, they don't know where they are. They're going to restructure and energize whatever they're near, whether it's blood in your body, water in your pipes, food that you had in the microwave. It doesn't matter. It's going to release this energy and restructure and energize whatever it's near. So I hope that clarifies that for you and others.
Thank you.
And like Galen said, he talked about setting his vitamins, in a little cup on the balancer. Well, the nutrients in your blood that's going to your cells, it's energizing that also, right? Whatever's in the blood, right?
Yes, and it's carrying that energy to the cells. See, you don't have to have a balancer in each shoe, a balancer in each pocket, and a balancer in a hat. If you just had one balancer in your pocket, it's going to affect all of your blood in a matter of minutes. All of your blood.
Also, you told me it emits biophotons, and I was trying to explain to a patient today what that is, how it increases cell-to-cell communication without the nerves. Can you touch on how or what happens as far as biophotons, that subject and the balancer are concerned?
Yeah,
so I could explain it better.
Yeah, so for those who have not heard of biophotons, it's very simple. Bio means life and photon means light. So it's living light. Now that sounds a little bit weird, but if you've ever heard of people having an aura, they have special cameras. One is called a Kirlian camera and the other one is called a GDV camera. And you can actually take a picture of somebody, their full body, and it looks like there's a flame around the perimeter of their body. I've seen pictures of someone's hand, and it looks like a flame. It could be different colors, but often it's a bluish looking flame like you would see coming out of the burner on a gas stove, this little blue flame. Where does that aura come from? The acupuncturists talk about us having an energy, a living energy that's inside our bodies, and it actually travels back and forth from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. And this energy is what's showing up in terms of an aura. Now, a person who is healthy will have a strong aura. A person who is weak or sick, it looks like there are sections where there's no flame. There's just nothing there. There are gaps where you'll see a little bit here and then a little ways away from that, it's empty. It's a void. That's a person who's in trouble health-wise because they don't have a very strong energy field. When I started to learn about biophotons, it was in regards to fruits and vegetables that were grown in mineral-rich soil. So we've all heard how it would be a good thing to do if you were having health problems, you wanted to get healthier. It would be a good idea to take a look at your food, because that's your source of fuel for your whole body is the food. So if you're eating cooked, canned, and processed food, dare I say even microwave food, you're not going to be giving your body any biophotons. But if you're eating fresh fruits and vegetables that haven't been cooked, canned, or processed, and they were grown in, let's say, at least decent soil, I'm speaking of organic where it wasn't polluted with chemicals. But the idea is if you wanted to increase the biophotons, increase your aura, the biophotons are coming from the food. Meaning when you eat a fresh organic apple, you're getting these living particles of light that contribute to your aura. So that's why when you go to a health spa, the first thing they do is cut out your cooked, canned, and processed foods, and they're trying to stimulate your body into a healing mode by flooding it with biophotons, these living particles of light. Interesting thing, though, is that we have seen people who were in really bad shape. I'm not going to get into exact details, but we've had so far 10 people who were in hospice, families standing around waiting for them to take their last breath. 4 of them were even unconscious in a coma, and they all bounced back. Well, how could that be? If the way to restore health is by eating a better diet, higher quality food, not only does it have more nutrition, more vitamins, minerals, etc., but it has biophotons that contribute to this energy field that we talk about. Well, what if you had something that you could just put in your pocket and it would emit biophotons? actually generate them out of thin air, generate living particles of light. And that's what we've had testing done to reveal, that the water tubes and the balancer generate, not just emit, but they generate biophotons, meaning there's no end to it. It's generating the biophotons. When you eat an apple and you're getting some biophotons from it, if you want more biophotons, you have to eat another apple. But when you put this balancer in your pocket, it's going to continually, and we believe indefinitely, we don't have any reason to believe that it's not going to do it indefinitely. And there was, I think Matthew, your friend Matthew, Doc, was on, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how this is a living source of energy that's unlimited. And so when you talk about biophotons, you're talking about establishing health from an energy perspective. And this is a way to do it without having to eat raw fruits and vegetables, which is difficult for a lot of people. So I hope that gives a little bit of clarity.
I think it does. Thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Fred.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's a
we
really
sure
good point.
Question. I got a question. This is Deborah.
Yes, go ahead.
When you have, say, a pitcher of water that you've balanced, and then you take it off of, say, the balancer and move it later, does it keep its charge like till the next day, or until you use it up, or
Indefinitely.
it does?
Yes.
Okay. And
Indefinitely.
when you put it into, say, a coffee maker where it's just it's a drip system, but it has to heat the water, does that mess things up and you have to recharge it then?
It does not.
Really? So water that you get out of your tap after it's been charged is good for that, unless you boil it for full time, or
Boiling doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Boiling is okay too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then my other question was, I've been trying to figure out, I only had a 4-set balance, or waterworks, and then I had 2 and a 2 that were clamped together. I haven't separated them. And I was trying to figure out how to use that around my bed. And so I put the 4-pack at the end of the bed, the foot of the bed, and then the 2 and 2 other corners, kind of like more like a triangle. And I was wondering if that's kind of too goofy, or if I needed to find a way to separate that. Is triangular okay? Not just, it doesn't have to be in squares and that kind of thing?
Yes. Again, you're creating an energy vortex. The fact that it's a triangle isn't really that much different, because you're saying at the foot of the bed, unless you're 7 feet tall and your feet are hanging over the bed. You see what I mean? You're inside that.
You're still in a vortex then. It doesn't matter the shape of the vortex.
It doesn't.
Okay, cool. But when I was driving to and from Stockton for some things, I had taken my waterworks, all 3 pieces, the 4-pack part and the 2 2s, and I had a balancer on me, and so I had that in the car with me. I did notice my gas mileage seems to have gone up, so even though I didn't do it on the pump itself, it's just sitting in the front of the car, and I kind of just set them around me, but they were in the car during those trips, not sitting there for extended times, just for the times that I was traveling, or maybe I think one of them did get left in the car while I was inside the event. But I was trying to figure out how long they need to sit in a car, maybe as compared to going in and out of the car. If you think that they would continue the balancing once it's already started.
Yes, we don't know. So let's say, for example, based on what Galen has revealed to me previously, it appears that once you have energized the fuel in your tank, even if you got down to a quarter of a tank and refilled without structuring or energizing the new fuel, once it gets mixed in with the energized fuel that's already in the tank, it changes it too. So another way
That's amazing.
Yes, another way to illustrate that, we had a lady call up and she actually sent a little video, and she had a koi pond. A koi pond can be a little tricky because they get dirty real fast, and it's hard to keep them clean, especially if they're outdoors. And it's hard to filter the water. There's a lot of other uh, elements to consider. At the end of the day, algae is a big problem. So typically, on most koi ponds, you have trouble seeing the fish because of the discoloration of the water. It's kind of a greenish, cloudy looking water. And this lady said, she sent me a picture, and she said, did I put these tubes in the right place? And without getting into details, I said, you need to put them on the pipe that is putting water back into the koi pond after it's been filtered. And so she did, and that pipe actually went to a waterfall. So the new fresh water coming into the pond was coming through the waterfall. And as she's moving her phone camera around to take this video, she's commenting on this pond and talked about how something happened and she lost like half of her fish. Something happened. And so she said, and on the video, she said, I don't know if there's even any fish left in here. And then she moved the phone around back to the waterfall. And sure enough, she said, oh, is that a fish? Oh, look, the fish had been attracted to the waterfall, and they came from wherever in that little pond over to that waterfall, and they were just darting all around there. She said, I'm telling you, when you can see the fish, they barely move at all. They're just motionless sitting there in the water. She said, look at this. These fish are just moving all around. It's the same kind of thing. We're energizing in a way that we can't visually see or detect with our senses, but animals know. Animals know when they're experiencing this energized water. So it typically is going to, now we're waiting on the follow-up video, but it'll take several days before that koi pond is free of algae and clear water again. But this is the idea, is structuring and energizing water, fuel, whatever you're dealing with, is going to give you a higher quality end product. I hope that helped to clarify that.
Thank you for that thorough question. That was, my goodness, excellent. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time to answer all of our questions. Heidi, you joined a little bit late. I just wanted to let you know that Dr. Fred's been on vacation, and we went straight into Q&A right after a short time of testimony. So we're going to cut this meeting short because he's tired from coming home and his travels from his vacation. Is there anything, any questions that you have that you want to ask Dr. Fred? Heidi?
Yeah, and thanks so much, Lily. Last night okay, so fail and a not fail testimony. We were in Oklahoma, and the mosquitoes are awful in this one spot. And so I got a bunch of mosquito bites. Now, I should have done what my son validated, which is put the white bottle put drops on my mosquito bites. And my son also validated on his brother that it made the mosquito bites visibly disappear quickly. And then so then of course I went to sleep and scratched holes in my skin from the mosquito bites that I didn't do anything for. But then when I had the holes in my skin, I put a drop of the mineral on my my hole in my skin last night, and it was very, very quick relief. So that I was
Great.
surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
very cool. Next time, obviously, the right order of operations is get bitten by the mosquitoes and then immediately treat them. And then have you all tried, does this help prophylactically against mosquitoes? Do you spray it on before you encounter them?
Well, we haven't really had any testimonies showing that it prevents mosquitoes, but we we know, and Doc Reed can verify this. He had gotten stung by a hornet, and just as Galen was pointing out, I don't know if you heard that part of the call, but Galen was pointing out that it would neutralize a spider bite. It neutralizes the poison, which is a pretty good example of what the energy in the liquids, they also have a very high energy. In fact, you can do the lemon juice pucker test with either one of the liquids. And we've had for 30 years a remarkable history of personal stories, myself and my wife included, but many, many other people about topical applications. And the one that really stands out in my mind was a man who was bitten by a brown recluse spider. And just for people to understand, when a spider, if you've ever known much at all about spiders, they don't really bite into, let's say they're going to kill an insect to eat it. They don't bite the insect and chew it up. They inject this toxic venom into the insect, and it literally liquefies the internal components of that insect, and then it just sucks out the components. Well, the same thing is going to happen if a spider bites you. That venom is going to start liquefying your flesh, and most people who have had a brown recluse spider bite, Doc had a lady working for him that had lost most of her bicep from the after effects of a brown recluse spider bite. Interestingly enough, we've had people, their hand was black and so painful they couldn't even stand to have air blow on it, and just a few drops of the liquid minerals and the pain was gone in seconds. And Doc will tell you the same thing with the hornet sting. And it's kind of like what we've been talking about with chemicals, toxic chemicals that are in the water supply. There's really no effective filtration, even distillation. It'll get things out that you can't detect in a laboratory, but as soon as you bring in energetic testing, you'll see that the frequencies of all those chemicals that you think are no longer there are still there. And your body responds to those frequencies just like the body responds to homeopathic preparations, just as though they were getting the raw herbs or whatever the homeopathic preparation is. So when you have the liquid minerals or the bouncer or the waterworks tubes, any of those things will neutralize poison. It doesn't know if it's in water or if it's in your hand because you got bitten by a spider or a tick. It doesn't know the difference. It just knows that whatever's near it is going to get this energy treatment. And the energy is neutralizing the venom so that it's not venom anymore. So I hope that helps to clarify that.
Dr. Fred,
Yes.
I wanted you to reiterate what Matthew Miller from Florida mentioned about how, or I guess you elaborated on it, and he put some words to it, later that we read or posted, how the balancer gives up the energy, but it doesn't lose energy. It's like you say, like a perpetual generator where, and it reminds me of the woman with the issue of blood who reached out and grabbed, the hem the Lord's garment, and he said, "I felt virtue go out of me." Well, he didn't get any weaker because of that. I mean, it's kind of like that metaphor. Your thoughts?
It's exactly like that. And without sounding like this is a religious service, that's how this whole thing started. I want people to never lose sight of that. It wasn't some brilliant scientist who had toiled in a laboratory doing different experiments and finally had this breakthrough formula. It wasn't like that. I was sitting on my couch and suddenly I'm getting this download of a formula. And I went into my closet in my home office, had a lot of supplies in there, and I start putting this thing together. Within, I'm not even going to tell you how long a time, but it wasn't more than just a few hours at the most. And I came to my wife and I had this bottle of liquid. I said, I've just invented this highly energized liquid. It's designed to hold the energy indefinitely. And she said lovingly, "So what are you going to do with it?" And I said, "I don't know." That's how this started. I didn't know what I had. I didn't know. And then through sharing it with people like Doc Reed, and then he shared with Lily, I'm getting feedback about things that I never dreamed. I'm telling you the truth, people, I never dreamed were possible with anything, let alone something that came from my hands. So we never can lose sight of this fact that there's a supernatural connection here, just as this Andre Bovis found out. Anything over 100,000 that you're testing, you must be dealing with spiritual energy. And we're at 33 million. Nothing has hit 100,000 anywhere in the world. I know people that have tested products from all over the world. Nothing has hit 100,000, and we're at 33 million. How can you explain that? Well, you can't unless you pay attention to what Bova said, and that is you must be dealing with spiritual energy. What are the limits of spiritual energy? None. Zero. The woman who had the issue of blood was no different than the blind man, no different than the dead man. And all he had to say was, wake up, come forth, stand up and walk, open your eyes and see. It was the same thing as the woman with the issue of blood. She touched him, just the hem of his garment, but it didn't matter. It was her faith that connected with the reality of who was standing in front of her. And that reality pulled the virtue out of him. And I believe it's the same thing with these products. When you hand one of these balancers to someone who, as Lily can tell you, even had a traumatic brain injury of 40 years, something happened. And Doc has a whole list of testimonials that he has observed, even with a woman who was dying of end-stage Alzheimer's. And within 10 hours, she responded. Well, how did that happen? I'm glad you asked. I don't know, unless we enter into this discussion the simple fact that this formula must have come to me in a supernatural way, and the things that we have experienced and others have experienced have really defined this supernatural energy. And I can't say it any more clearly than that.
Well, that's why I love having this call, because without us coming together and experimenting and discussing and sharing and learning and growing, we wouldn't have a clue
Yes.
of what it could do, huh?
You remember that when you called me and told me about that woman who was only able to speak one word, and in 10 hours having these tubes for a water pipe sitting in a chair 6 feet away from her bed, and she responded in 10 hours. We didn't know that was going to happen.
I'm thinking it stimulates the nervous system. I mean, that's my expertise is, neurological stuff, like a neurologist dealing with the brainstem. And what are your thoughts of it stimulating the nervous system? That's what makes everything work.
I think it stimulates every system. Yeah, I think it stimulates every system. Yeah, if a guy can poke needles into your shoulder when you've got a bad shoulder and the pain goes away, if that can happen with somebody just poking you with needles, trying to manipulate the energy that you already have, and then we have people that you hand them a balancer, and the same injured shoulder becomes pain-free and full movement. Well, what's the difference? Both of them had to do. The healing came because of the energy. In all of these testimonies that we've had, all they got was this energy, and what happened from there, we're still trying to figure out. So,
yeah, I think the needles are stimulating the nervous system. A 90-year-old doctor that does the same brainstem work that I do, he said you could whack somebody on the back of in the back with a two-by-four, and for a little bit they would feel better. And what he said the reason is that you're stimulating the nervous system.
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting. That's why I'm thinking that maybe this is stimulating the nervous system, and that's what makes your vocal cords work, all the brain connections and the hard drive up in the gray matter. And I mean, like you say, everything, all the systems it's affecting maybe.
Yes. Remind me on the next call, and we'll discuss what these two doctors found when they were testing the original energy device on a patient to see what happened to the autonomic nervous system. That's the part of your system that you don't have to think about, and it operates.
Correct. So, sympathetic, parasympathetic. That's right. Automatic.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, it's been a great call, and
thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're learning a lot.
Yes, we
together.
appreciate.
Yeah, together we're learning a lot.
And the funny thing is, me too. I'm learning a lot.
That's right. Well, you never stop learning. I mean, I don't want to stop till the day I die. Some people think you got it all figured out. I want to think I never got it figured out, because when you think you got it figured out, you realize, really you don't.
That's right.
It's so inspirational. So many things that we can do in the future with just a little bit of this energy is amazing.
Yes.
God bless it all. Thank you.
Yes, God bless. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr. Fred.
Good night, everyone. I'm going to jump off.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fred.
Okay, Dr. Fred. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
A great call, Lily.
Yes. Such a wonderful call. I'm so grateful that Dr. Fred hopped on and was willing to talk to us in his travels home from his vacation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And glad to see you on here, Man of Straw. I wanted to get you in there and have you ask a question to Dr. Fred before he left, but it's okay. He only wanted to be on for an hour, but glad you joined us. It was a really good call. I hope you listened to the recording. There's a lot of really good information on how we have a gentleman that's been testing this the gas mileage by using the tubes, and he's Yeah.
Lily, I was wanting to elaborate on that. Somebody had given me a product called FFX,
Okay.
and it atomizes fuel, and it just
Ooh.
takes, man, like a ounce or two, no, not maybe a quarter of an ounce in order to treat 20 gallons of gas. It'll make it last for 20 years. They've been using it in ships and rail, uh, you know, train engines, because they if they can get another third of the life out of it, um, then to rebuild a ship motor, that's probably a million. They're telling him maybe several million, but if you could get another third of the life out of it, then that's a good thing. So it just got introduced, to the public, but the history of it, they've been using it for years in ships and in automotive, not automotive, train locomotive,
Nice.
engines. And the way it works is, because it was explained to me, I used to be a distributor a long time ago, but I not since then. But it made me think about how that works. By atomizing the fuel, like breaking up the molecules, what it does is it uses. I put this stuff in my lawnmower, and I get, instead of 1 hour cutting, I get two. Okay,
Nice.
and so the way it works is that the engine lasts longer because it runs cooler. What that means is, it was explained that when you have a small particle of the fuel, as it ignites, it's going to burn up and work more efficiently. You're not going to need as much. It's not going to have as much carbon or waste, exhaust. So, but it ignites at a lower temperature. Okay, instead of having to heat up in order to heat up stuff that's not maybe structured or atomized, you need to go to a higher temperature for it to explode. Well, this it's a lower ignition temperature, so the motor runs cooler,
Nice.
and it's more efficient if it's using less fuel. That's how I can stretch it, I guess. So my thoughts were with the natural energy is that it's structuring it, it's spreading it out, just like atomizing the fuel, which is what this claims to do. So I think that it could really, help, with trucking. And I mean, the diesel's not cheap, and but it sounds like it kind of operates maybe on that principle or something. I don't know, but we'll continue to research. So
Heck
give it over
yes.
back
I'm
to
gonna
you,
try
Billy.
it. That's excellent. I'm gonna try some of that. Well, does
And
anyone
another,
have any? Go ahead.
here, Lily, hold on real quick. While she was talking about the mosquito story, I
Oh
thought
yeah.
about a way to make it work as far as,
Okay.
okay, so my friend Michael's on here from Louisiana. He's floating these, waterworks in his pond, a little 8-inch, tubes, about a half-inch in
Uh-huh.
diameter. It's structuring the water in his pond. Well, he says it also attracts the fish. It's like they want to hang out near this natural energy. Even cats and dogs, I heard testimonies where they'll lay next to the bowl of water where they wouldn't
Yes.
where they wouldn't before. Just like when I swam in a swimming pool that was structured, I just want to hang out there, all day long. And so
Nice.
my thought was that if you dangle these in the air around you where you're, or off to the side of where you're on your patio or whatever, maybe the natural energy would attract the mosquitoes, and they would go hang out over there and maybe not around you. So knowing that it did that to the fish, any thoughts?
Ooh. Um.
I sure hope
Yeah.
it would do
That's.
the opposite and make them want to go away, not come closer. Because if you're wearing a pouch on you, then they might be attracted to you.
Yeah, I mean, like put the tubes up like the fish. Fish were hanging out around the tubes. So, it being a living thing, maybe it would be attracted and make it go hang out over there and not near you. Hanging the tubes from the tree or around you, or food for thought. Any thought?
Didn't he say something about putting the balancer right on as soon as there's a bite or something too, that might help neutralize the venom? So
Correct.
even if they are attracted, then neutralizing the venom could be one of the results of having that energy around us.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, neutralize it before they get you. Prevention. So the same high energy liquid in the bead pack and the tubes are in the liquid additives. He said that's what makes them work so efficiently versus, not having them. So the high energy causes, when it comes in contact with something that's poisonous, or toxic, the electrons go like a clock, and non-toxic things go opposite, but it hits it with enough energy to make the electrons spin opposite, basically disarming it. It's like if you had a bomb and cut the blue wire and it's no longer a bomb. I mean, it can't hurt you. It's still a bomb, but it can't hurt you. So that's a good thought.
The idea of
neutralizing their little thin bodies, neutralizing while they're flying around. A good thought. Go ahead, Debbie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that was an excellent idea to deter the mosquitoes. And I was curious to hear what your friend Michael had to say.
And like Debbie just said, neutralize them before they get to you. If you got a force field, put 4 of them around you where you're hanging out.
That's right.
20 feet apart or whatever, and create a vortex. And they're so little, you could disarm them before they got to you. Michael, any thoughts, or anyone else? That's a good thought.
Yeah, this is Mike. I think by wearing the balancer and taking the water with the electrolytes and the alkalizer fluids, that the whole body will transform in such a way that the venom from these creatures, wasps and all that, will be less effective and won't bother us as much. That's kind of my thought on it.
That's nice. A good point. Yeah, because you're already charged up or having to resist. Well, I mean, yeah, or yeah, have the energy in you, and when they put the poison in you, it just immediately reverses that electron flow and disarming it.
Neutralize it.
Yeah, good word, neutralize. So maybe if you put the tubes around you outside, maybe y'all can try that. See if the mosquitoes come get you, or if they land on you, if they don't hurt. Go ahead, Lily.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this because I was thinking about taking a walk in the woods, but I always fear ticks because, I don't want any kind of Lyme disease. But I was thinking that if I go with the balancers in my pocket, the blood will be structured, my body will be structured, and it'll help eliminate, because Kim, Dr. Fred's wife, she had said she was also bit by a tick, and she put the balancer on there and she didn't have any symptoms whatsoever. So that actually makes me feel better, because it's just a proven fact that O blood types, when O blood types are bitten by ticks, it's a bad thing. You go down quick. I had actually a friend who went camping with her husband and 2 young daughters, and she was bit by a tick. And that night she had flu-like symptoms. They had to take her to ER, and she ended up dying the next day. And so that kind of freaks me out when I go to the woods, but I love the woods so much. And I was thinking I would love to go back hiking in the woods, and hopefully I can take these balancers, and that would help. Yeah.
Put a couple tubes in your back pockets and a couple in the front, and put one under your hat.
Eucalyptus oil and peppermint oil repel ticks. So if you put them on your ankles or even
There
on
you
your
go.
arms, they do not like that. I've
Oh,
seen tests of that.
oh,
Peppermint
thank you.
oil, eucalyptus oil, and lavender oil.
Just mix it all together or what?
You can use any one of them by themselves. Ticks will
Oh,
avoid it like the plague.
oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Nice.
Doug,
That,
that's great.
yeah, that with the
There,
balancers, I think I'll
there
be
you
okay.
go, Lily. You'll be all covered.
Does anyone have any other questions before we close up the meeting for tonight? Well, it was such a pleasure being here with you all. Miss you, and we hope that you're conducting your own experiments and learning new things. I'm hoping you're sleeping with your balancers and your pillowcase and structuring everything that you drink and eat. And now you know that you'll get more gas mileage. Hopefully, you'll take note of that and see for yourself.
And
Michael,
do
did you want
some
to go ahead?
and do some mosquito testing with 4 tubes around you when you're on your patio and see if they get you, or if they do get you, maybe it won't whelp up. Who knows? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Michael or Lily.
Yeah, Michael, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Only that I really think we'll work with fuel. And I missed the early part of the meeting. I'm sorry, but I have a brother-in-law in Europe who I'm going to be seeing in about a week and a half, and he's a rep for Grander, and Grander makes a structure unit, which is and Dr. Fred knows about this, and Daniel and I have had conversations with him about the Grander units. They're nowhere near as powerful as the what we're using. And
Wow.
he long ago that this was probably early 2000s that the Chinese were experimenting with the structured water type units that were out at the time, and they were getting results of better fuel.
Wow.
For the right word, better fuel efficiency.
Yeah. But
Nice.
the
And
Grander
I may have
unit,
even seen an article on that.
and the Grander unit is like $2,000. So Michael,
It all depends. You can buy little pens and all that, and I have them. You can buy boards that you put inside your fridge, but Dr. Fred was telling me and Daniel that on the Bovis scale, they measure only around 39,000, and these measure 33 million.
Right.
I
That's
think Dr.
incredible.
Fred said we're pushing 40. We're pushing 40 now.
40 million.
Yeah, the Lord gave him a upgrade to the formula a month or two ago, and he said we're pushing at 40 million. So
Oh my goodness.
That's good, huh? Jeez.
Yes, that is so
And
good.
he also mentioned that there hasn't been any units that have been above 100. Any other units on the Bovis scale?
Correct. That it have to be supernatural energy, or
Right.
spiritual energy over that 100,000. So, yeah, that's
at least that he's aware of. He hasn't heard of it or seen of any. So,
Right.
So Grander's only pushing 39,000.
That's what he told us a couple months ago, Daniel. We were on call together.
Okay, that's right. Go ahead, Lily. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to remind everyone, and if you did not, and you were not on the call or haven't heard the recording of the previous meetings where Dr. Fred did mention that he had a few people working with him in the past years, and they bought large amounts of his product years ago, and they started websites, and he's no longer associated with them. So if you look up websites for, if you do a Google search for balancers or waterwork and you come across websites, these are people who are no longer working with Dr. Fred, and they have old material, old energy. So you're not, if you order one through one of those websites, you're not going to be able to get the highest energy that is available to date. Just wanted to let you guys know. But hopefully you guys are all set up with all of your balancers and your tubes, and you got the water being structured in your houses, and you got your electrolytes and alkalis, and I'm just so thrilled that you have managed to find your way here. Think about it. There's 11 participants, and think about how many people are on the face of this earth. So you are just a fraction of 1%, probably a fraction of 1% of 1%, and you have privilege of this high energy that is doing so many miraculous things, that has hit the 0 point and the quantum level, which is just exquisite and miraculous in my opinion. So I think y'all have come here for a reason. I think for a time such as this, and I hope and pray that you take this information and you do good with it, with yourselves, with those who you love. And I'm just glad you're here. And I look forward to hearing all of your testimonies. And if you have any questions that you can't think of right now, hope you put them on the board. And we look forward to talking with you again next week and answering them. Dr. Dan, do you have anything else you want to conclude with, since we don't have any more questions?
I was just mentioning that, one thing that it's by having your house and an energy field around you, it's really protecting us from EMFs, which can cause cancer and a lot of negative effects to the body, probably even Alzheimer's. And so I think that's a good side effect or a good added benefit that I just thought about. But yeah, great call, Lily. Thank you so much.
Yes,
You
yes,
did a great
thank
job
you.
of hosting, and everyone, thank you for participating and researching and sharing. It's truly a delight to hear from everyone and to hear of all the things that we're learning that this can do.
Thank you once again. Can you close us out with a benediction or a blessing?
Sure.
Thank you.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bless you and give his perfect peace. We just plead the blood of Jesus over all of us. We pray a hedge of protection around everyone in our nation as we go through this great transition appears that's coming back to a constitutional republic, Lord, which is your government. So we just thank you for working mightily to restore constitutional governance to this nation and using President Trump mightily like a Cyrus. We just can't thank you enough for working on our behalf. And we put all our hope, all our faith, all our trust in you, and lean not on our own understanding, is what your word says. So we thank you for this awesome day that you have made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you, everyone.
Amen.
God bless. And have a great evening.
You.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.